Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I have this wonderful team that God has provided me, and I always like to introduce them because they're so important to this whole process. I could not do this without them, literally. So first is my faithful assistant, Faith, who has basically been my assistant since the day she was born. Her dad would work the soundboard, and he brought her in when she was about 3 weeks old, and he had her in one hand and the soundboard in the other. And then as she grew a little bit, she got to where she was crawling, and she crawled right up on the stage. So I just left her there. I had a portable mic, and so I would just step over her. And then we would put her on the podium to do announcements. And I think people paid a lot of attention to the announcements because she was so cute up there. But anyway, she lived about 6 blocks from my house most of her life, and her dad was a tow truck driver, and he would go on out-of-town tows and drop the girls at my place, and we would do projects together because, at my house, there's always a project that needs to be done. And so I got a chance to see Faith's work. So when she was 14 and a half and said, I want a real job, she had been doing babysitting and nannying. She said, I want a real job this year. And I was like, oh. So I hired her for my ozone business. And, she's the best assistant I've ever had in that business for sure. I've had 2 others and neither one of them worked out. Faith was there a long time. And then when we went live for the pandemic, I said, do you want to be my ministerial assistant? And she said, yes. And so here we are. And so she is the woman behind the screen. When you pull it back like the Wizard of Oz, when you pull it back, you find Faith. But she does all the background stuff, including when you say hi, good morning, hello, however you choose to greet us, she's the one who answers as me. And I go back usually and check that to see if there's any questions she may not have answered or answered as fully as I would like. And that's only happened a couple times in 4 years. So, she knows me better than I know myself. But we ask that you say hello, good morning, hello, hi, good morning, however you want to greet us, because in a facility, when I look out, I can see the faces shining back at me, and I know who my audience is. Here, I don't even get a name. I just get a number. So we ask that you do that. And if you're stopping by later, just say hello. Just let me know you were here. Faith is also our soloist now, and today she's going to be doing
Relax, Let Go by Karen Drucker.
Thank you. I knew what it was. I just could not get the words to come up. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. We could not do this without you, so thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have the wise and powerful Oz, my partner in crime. And he has been in my life since 1998 when he took his first class with me. He was my first baby practitioner, meaning he took all of his classwork with me to become a practitioner. And then he was my board president for many years, and then he decided to move to Florida. So we lost the ability to have him in the service until the pandemic. When I said, hey, we're going to start going live. Do you want to do this? And he was like, sure. And so here we are. He is our practitioner of the day. And what that means is that he's going to do the invocation and the benediction, and then he's available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a while. But he's joining us right now from Wisconsin, where he goes for the summer and then goes back to Florida for the winter. I think that's a very wise move. And had I to do my life, that's the way I would like to do it. Spend summers in Colorado and winters in Florida. So we're working on that, right, Oz?
Yep.
Thank you so much. I couldn't do this without you. All right. And then we have an adjunct music team that I always like to honor because we couldn't do this without them either. Sorry. Otherwise, you'd hear like me speak for an entire hour, or we would just speak and be done. But I like the whole atmosphere of having a church service. So Reverend Fairy Lane Silver asked us to use her music in our service, and Karen Drucker provided us with her entire collection of CDs so we would be able to do that. So I always like to shout out those two women because we really couldn't have a real service without them. And then there's Albertina Giuffre, who comes for special events, better known as Tina. And she is our singer at some of these special events that we have. All right, so let's see. The topic today is 10 Weeks on the Road to Prosperity, based on my book. And we are on stop 3, which is attachment involvement. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. There's a watch party button that you can click on and invite all your friends so they can get an idea of what a Sunday service looks like. And you can answer all their questions in a chat because it's private. So you can't bother anybody else. And it's a great way for them to get their questions answered. All right. I'd like to invite you now to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
The presence of God, for God as we conceive of it, is all things, in all things, as all things, in me and you and all we see and all we do. For if something is indeed omnipotent and eternal, it must be right here and right now, wherever and whenever you are and whoever you are. For we are all but one in this manifestation of the greater being that gives us life, gives us experience, and in which we participate through our intention. I know that there are blessings involved, and they are unfolding right now at this moment. And I give thanks that this is so, and I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. This next song is one that Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver wrote about our connection with all of life. We are all one. So enjoy this next selection.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I have seen, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that surrounds
Yes, we are all one in it. Say hi, hello, good morning, however you like to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. Here, I get a number. I don't even get names, so I don't even know who my audience is. And if you're here later, just drop a line and say hello, just to let me know that you stopped by. If you like something that you hear, whether that's something I say or Faith sings or Oz prays, use that like button. And if you love something, send us hearts, because we love to get love. And if something strikes you as really powerful that I say, by all means, use that wow button. It lets me know that I'm on track. Because the whole point of this is to uplift and inspire you. And if I know that I'm hitting the target, then it helps me to be a better minister. All right, without further ado, we have now Faith singing I Relax and Let Go by Karen Drucker. God.
I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well, all is well. And every day I affirm and pray how I must with everything I have. I release my fear, 'cause it's all so clear. I am held, I am loved, I am safe. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well. And now I see what my life could be when I trust in the process and have faith. And now I know when I just let go that I have all I need. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. I relax, let go, release and surrender. All is well, all is well, all is well, I am well.
I love that last little, oh.
Right?
I know. It reminds me of old days with the music. Thank you so much, Faith. That was great. Excuse me. Well, we are doing a series based on my book, 10 Weeks on the Road to Prosperity. And the first week, we did an inventory to see where we were and where we are and where we're going to be. So if you're just tuning in, please go back to week 1 to stop one. The full sermon is available on YouTube. But basically what we did is we listed out all of our income, whatever income, streams we have. Doesn't matter whether it's, a job or a trust or, anything that has income. We listed all of that out and got a total. And then we listed our expenses, but at the top, we did 10% to God and 10% to ourselves. Now, 10% to God is all about giving back to our spiritual source. God is our source, right? And so when we tithe, what we're doing is we're giving back to our source. But we're stepping up to tithing. We're not trying to do it all at once, because I do know there's a deficit between the income and expense when we take out 30%, basically, because I'll tell you that in a minute. But we start out, the first week we tithe 1%. Last week was 2%. This week I'm going to ask you to do 3%, giving back to your source. The second 10% is giving back to you. And that's because we can always find a way to buy things for other people, to help other people out. But rarely do we put aside money for ourselves just for fun, right? And as long as we're paying all the bills and doing all of that stuff and putting ourselves last, the universe is going to say, yes, you are last. So that second 10%, which again is stepping up, we're going to do 1%, 2%, now 3%. But you must use it on yourself for fun, not on anyone else. Not for, couple vacations, not for anybody else but yourself. And that's putting yourself first. Putting God first, then you second, I guess is what you want to say. The third 10% that I asked you to do was either to pay back some money that you owe or for investments. And so we're taking 30% right off the top of your income to use the other 70% for your expenses. Now, you list out all of your expenses. I do realize there's going to be a discrepancy between the income and expenses. That's okay. We expect it to be like that because that's where we're starting from. If you were taking a trip and you had to put the instructions into a GPS or the address into the GPS, you would have to know where you're starting from, right? So this inventory was a way for you to tell the universe where you are today, or tell yourself where you are today, and then tell yourself where you want to be. And the tool that we use, we always have a spiritual tool for every week. The spiritual tool that week was gratitude. Now, I want you to keep doing gratitude through this entire thing, because gratitude is that magnetic force that draws to you your good. So the more gratitude you can practice, the more you can pull into yourself. I talk about gratitude as getting up in the morning and expressing gratitude for the day, however you like. My mentor minister, Dr. Marjorie Staum, used to swing her legs over the bed and say, praise God, this is the day that God has made. Not everybody wants to do it that way. Whatever it takes for you to feel gratitude, whatever statements you want to make, whatever makes you feel gratitude, I want you to do that first thing in the morning. And then you're going to take gratitude breaks throughout the day, including your lunch hour, where you're going to think about 3 things that you're grateful for. At the end of the day, you're going to do kind of a gratitude journal, list 10 things that you are grateful for right before you go to bed. Because remember, what we carry into our sleep is very powerful. So if we carry gratitude into our sleep, we are going to be grateful. You see, we're going to feel that gratitude. And Abraham Hicks talks about being in the vortex, and gratitude is the best way that I know to step into the vortex. Now, those of you who are unfamiliar with that, Abraham Hicks is a channeled entity who says that all of our good can be found in the vortex. In other words, like eye of a hurricane, so to speak. You're standing in that vortex. Nothing that's swirling around you has any effect over you. But every time you send out a rocket of desire, this is what I want, the universe starts to work on it. Now, I call that force good, or God. Some people call that Allah. Some people call that an intelligence. Some people call it a divine intelligence. Some people call it great spirit. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but it is the creative force that exists within you and through you. So when you're in the vortex and you are in gratitude, you are receiving that which has already been worked on for you by the universe, right? So the second week, I talked about imagination and intention, because our intention is how we create, okay? So if I say I have an intention that this is what I want to create in my world, once I state my intention, the universe begins to work on it. We step into gratitude, into the vortex, and there it is, right? Simplified, but that's the way it works. And the way we get there is through our imagination, because as you know, when you go to the movies, if there's a sad scene on the screen, you begin to cry. And it doesn't matter that it's fiction, or it might be even fact, but the body doesn't know, the mind doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. So we automatically, our imagination automatically takes over and creates an effect within us, okay? So we're going to use our imagination in a different way. We're going to use our imagination to create what we have intended, right? So the spiritual practice for the week was to visualize. Now, anybody who participates 100% in this program, meaning you tithe, you do all the spiritual practices, you tune in every week, anybody who participates 100% at the end will get a Thriver's license and a copy of my book for free. The Thriver's license is about thriving versus surviving. Because that is how I am defining prosperity. Everybody's definition of prosperity is going to be different. I had a friend one time from a very prominent family in Colorado whose family lost everything. And I went to lunch with her and she was complaining because she only had $300,000 in the bank. Only. And here I was sitting at like $15 in my checking account. And at first I kind of my feathers got a little ruffled when she said that. Well, like, oh, woe is me. I only have 300,000. But then I started really thinking about it. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. What matters is what I perceive my prosperity to be, or what you perceive your prosperity to be. Because your definition of prosperity is whether you feel like you're prosperous or you feel like you're in poverty, right? And so I've built all of this based on that idea that my version of prosperity, or the version of prosperity that we're working towards, is thriving instead of surviving. So that's the premise for this entire series. Today is stop 3, which is the attachment and involvement. And I will go through that here in a minute. And our spiritual practice today is going to be affirmations. So let me pull up this wonderful chart. This is from, Paulette's son gave a workshop on at Mile High. And this is where I get this model from. It's based on the idea that there are 4 quadrants that we operate in and through. The top left is the, let me see if I can see it. I can't see it. Oh, I got to pull it up on on my other thing here because I can't see it. Come on. I wish I could see better on this. On this screen here, but I can't. So we'll just do it this way. and that way I can really talk about it well. Okay, so the top left is the complaint quadrant. Now, you'll notice that in the middle we have attachment going down and involvement going across. So each of these quadrants is related to how attached or how involved we are. And our life, there are effects in our life based on what quadrant we're operating through. We run through all of them, and all of them have their purpose at times. Excuse me. In the complaint quadrant, we have very low involvement. So let me talk about involvement a little bit. Involvement is how I'm participating. So for instance, if I am not involved in my life, I'm more of a spectator in my life, then I'm not very involved. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a job or a project or relationships. Involvement is the same. It's either whether you're present in that moment with that or you're not. And so the complaint quadrant is when we have low involvement, but we have really high attachment. Now, we can be attached to a person, a place, a thing, a situation, how we want our life to look or feel. We can get attached, very highly attached to these things. But in the complaint quadrant, because we're not involved, but we have this really high attachment, this is actually the victim quadrant. And this is where we will complain a lot and not necessarily want to get any results. We just want to complain because we don't feel like we have any power because we're not involved, right? Then we go down to the left bottom, and that is the hopelessness quadrant or apathy quadrant, as I like to call it, where we have very low attachment and very low involvement. This is the place where I don't even really see a lot of benefit from this quadrant other than grief. It's the so what do I care? I've given up. This is where a lot of people get into drugs and alcohol, where they give in to whatever addiction they have, because why not? Who cares, right? And I am just coming out of a lot of grief, and I was in that place a lot. When you're going through the grieving process, it's normal to want to withdraw from the world and be in your own little cocoon, which I was doing a lot of. I've lost 7 people in the last couple of years, and 6 of them very, very, well, I should say 5 of them very, very dear, close people. My sister died a year ago on February 21st. My husband, Reverend Lynn, died this past February 21st. Yes, they died on the exact same date, on her 1-year anniversary. And it also includes my mentors. I lost my minister mentor, or minister, however you want to say it, Marlene Morris, a couple of years ago. And that was a real blow for me. I've also lost a friend that was in my wedding 43 years ago, that we have stayed in touch all of those years. And I would go visit her in Florida. And I lost another mentor, spiritual mentor in the Native American path that I was following. And so all of these things that have happened have, they put me in a state of apathy for a very short time. I don't stay in it forever, but I do stay in it for a while. And I withdraw from everyone. I just want to be in my little cocoon. I don't want anybody coming in. I don't want to go out anywhere. So that's the only benefit I can see for the apathy quadrant. I will tell you that the complaint quadrant is a place where activism happens. So, for instance, when you look at the Palestinian the student protesters that are Palestinian, they're in the complaint quadrant. They want to have their voices heard. And when you look at activists, that's where they start. But it's also where all the violence happens, because they have very high attachment. They don't have any involvement in making a change for the better. They just want to go in. So you have the Palestinian students who are exercising their constitutional freedom of speech peacefully. And then you have the counter protesters coming in and creating a violent atmosphere. And then you have the police coming in with violence as well. But all of that happens within this complaint quadrant. However, nothing gets done without some of that. You have to have some of those aggressive attachments without involvement in order to affect change in the world. So I just want to say that so that we know that each one of these quadrants holds a very special place. Now let's go to the top right, which is the criticism quadrant. And that's where we have high involvement and high attachment. Unfortunately, that's also the bully or the tyrant quadrant, because in this stage of the game, we are trying to force other people to live according to our guidelines. It's also the quadrant where when we want something to happen, instead of allowing it to happen, we are forcing it. By God, it's going to go that way. I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to stick by it no matter what happens. Blah, you know. And that's a really aggressive place to be, but it has its purpose, right? Nothing happens unless you have either the complaint or the criticism quadrant in play, because that high attachment and high involvement is another place where activism happens. And so those are really important. It's also worth noting that the two left ones are victim and the two right ones are victor. Now, I just want to really quickly show you what the difference is. This is the posture of someone who is living in a victim quadrant, right? This is the posture of someone who is living in the victor quadrant, meaning that I do understand that I do have power. When you're in the victim quadrant, you don't believe you have any power or any control over anything. And so you are living in that place of either who cares, or I'm going to complain because that's all I can do. Nothing will ever change. Have you ever been in one of those jobs where you complain and complain and complain, and the management of the job does nothing about it? And so you feel like your voice is not being heard. That's the complaint quadrant, you see. A lot of times people get into the apathy quadrant in those same jobs because they really know that nothing will ever change, that nothing they say will make a difference. And so they give up. Who cares, you know? And so on the criticism quadrant, that's where you criticize everything, whether it's good or not, because it doesn't live up to your standards. Now, the place we want to try to effectively be in as much of the time as possible is the one on the lower left, which is the empowerment quadrant. Effectiveness quadrant or empowerment quadrant, where we have high involvement, meaning we are 100% participating, but we have very low attachment to the outcome. And you're going to say to me, well, how can I not be attached to the outcome when I want my life to be a certain way? I understand that. But there's a certain amount of accepting reality that happens in this empowerment quadrant, because we are allowing the reality of what is to be there, and we're not fighting against it anymore. See, in the complaint and the criticism quadrant, we are fighting against it. In the apathy quadrant, of course, we're not fighting anything because we don't care anymore, right? And so in the effectiveness quadrant or the empowerment quadrant, we have decided to accept reality the way it is. Now, let me explain a little bit for you. I would have liked to have gone back and changed Reverend Lynn's illness if I could over the last few years. I would like to go back and change the care that he needed. I would have liked to have gone back and changed the fact that he passed away. But I don't have any ability to change that, right? You can't go back and change the past. So at some point we have to reach a place where we allow what is to be, okay? What is, we allow it to be. I don't know if I made that clear. I don't. So what happens in the effectiveness quadrant is really simple, actually. For instance, I had to wear a mask for 4 years. Okay. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that think that's a horrible thing. I had a client call for the ozone business the other day and say, do you really require masks still? Or is that an outdated thing? And I said, no, I still actually do require masks. The reason being, my doctors have said to me, you have no antibodies. So because I can't 6-foot distance from the clients, I still am wearing a mask and I still require them to wear a mask. And she said, oh God, I can't do that. And I said, well, I've gotten accustomed to it. I've been wearing a mask for 4 years. And she said, oh, you poor thing. And I thought, it's so interesting how people's perception of that is. Did I like wearing a mask? No. But even before the pandemic, anyone who had a lung transplant is on anti-rejection meds. And so the protocol has always been to wear a mask out in public. That was never a pandemic thing. And then the pandemic came and it was, you know, of course, part of that. And I never thought I could wear a mask, but I adjusted to it. There's a lot of things that came out of the pandemic that are really actually awesome. I was just talking to somebody the other day who was saying, you know, I remember when grocery stores didn't deliver. I remember when restaurants didn't deliver. And I said, you know, that's one of the benefits that came out of the pandemic. Do I think the pandemic was wonderful? No, but there were some wonderful things that came out of it. But we had to allow ourselves to adjust to the reality of where we were. And so now we have the benefit of restaurants and grocery stores that deliver to us, right? Because we allowed that reality to be. And that's, I think, where we need to focus our attention is on working on surrendering and allowing, because we really cannot change the past. We cannot change some circumstances. The pandemic is one of those things that no matter what we do, we can't actually get rid of it. I mean, it just is. It's part of the reality that we now live. And so we have adjusted. And I think that's probably the biggest thing about the empowerment quadrant is that you adjust to the reality that is. And in doing so, you allow yourself to know that that's the reality and to adjust, right? And that's where you are at the most power, where you have the most personal power and where you have the most creative power is in that empowerment quadrant. That means we don't force anything. You know, I say, this is what I want. I allow God to fill in the blanks, divine intelligence, universe, however you want to say it. We allow it to fill in the blanks and provide to us sometimes a much better alternative than if we had pushed it ourselves. I don't know about any of you, but anytime I've pushed to get something, when I get it, it's not what I really wanted. And I realize that once I have it, that I start looking at all of the flaws of what I got, right? But when we're living in the empowerment quadrant, we are allowing that or something better to come to us. And I have found when I do it that way, what I get is exactly what I needed and exactly what I really wanted underneath all that, you know, attachment to whatever that thing was, right? So that's going to be what we're going to focus our attention on this week. I want you to look at what quadrant you're in. Remember, you're moving in and out of all the quadrants. My goal is to stay 100% in the empowerment quadrant. Am I perfect at it? No. I struggle like everybody else does. I spend a lot of time in the apathy quadrant whenever I have a death that is around me. But I do come out of that eventually. There are times when I want to just complain. I don't want a result. I don't want, you know, a solution. I just want to complain. And sometimes I'll just say to somebody around me, can I just, you know, clear the air? Can I just all over you? And as long as they know that, they don't offer solutions. They just listen to me and nod their head. And that's really all I want. Sometimes I just want somebody to be there with me in my pain. So let's talk about pain for a minute. Pain and suffering are not the same. Ram Dass said, sorry, I don't know what's going on today. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And what I mean by that is there's pain no matter what you do. If you get married, there's pain leaving your old life behind. When you graduate from high school, there's pain leaving your friends all behind and the life that you knew. There's pain when you start a new job. There's pain when you move to a new place. There's pain when you start a new relationship. There's always a certain amount of pain. However, we don't have to suffer. So those of you who do not have any problems with your hand or your arm, I'd like to walk you through a little experiential exercise here to help you feel what it feels like to do this. Okay, so what we resist persists. And usually when we try to stretch our hand back, boy, I'm really flexible today. When we try to stretch our hand back, we don't take it to the where it actually hurts, but you can tell that if you pushed it a little bit further, there would be pain, right? So I'd like you to close your eyes. I want you to put your hand back like this. If you have no problems with your hand or your arms, put your hand back like this, note where it is, and then close your eyes. And let's take in a deep breath in through the nose, hold it, and out through the mouth. And this next one, I want to come all the way up through from the belly, in through the nose, hold it, and release through the mouth. And for good measure, we're going to do one last one. Really deep, in through the nose, hold it, and release. Now with your eyes closed, I want you to tickle your arm. We call that gickle in my family. I just want you're trying to relax the arm so it's not resisting anymore. We've relaxed our body and now we're relaxing the arm. And now I'd like you to move your hand up and pull that hand as far as it will go without pain. And then open your eyes and see how much further you were able to go. I don't know if you can see. I was trying to do it on this side so you could see, but mine is all the way back. Okay, you can let go of it now. When we resist, nothing can come forward for us. Our creations do not happen because what we resist persists. So if we're resisting change, more change will come. And as we know, pain comes with change, right? When we resist, we suffer. Think about all the people who resisted wearing a mask and how much angst they went through and how much suffering they incurred through that entire process. It was not necessary. You can either, live in that and suffer because you're angry, or you can adjust to it, allow it, and strive to have a better life. And what happened to me was I adjusted. I didn't think I could. I didn't think wearing a mask all the time was possible for me, but I was able to do it because I had to. And so I found myself in a position of surrender to the what is. And as we go through our week this week, I want you to think about what quadrant you're in and how it's serving you and where you want your attention to be placed. Hopefully you want your attention to be placed in the empowerment quadrant. Now, the spiritual tool we're going to use this week is affirmations. And I want to talk briefly about affirmations because I'm running out of time. But here's the thing. Dr. Margaret Stannard, who was the editor of my book, and she was one of a handful of people in the world that had the training she had. She was going to be a doctor, and she was one class shy of getting her degree, and she decided she didn't want to be a doctor. So she took speech pathology and graduated from that program with a certificate. But she traveled around the world consulting on cases like my brother's who had a massive stroke. And what happened with him was it happened in his left brain, crossed over his midbrain into his right brain. So she would be called in to consult on those cases. And she was in the middle of explaining how the brain works to me when I finally had this aha about affirmations. I said, okay, so if I'm understanding what you're saying, because she was talking about creating pathways in the right side of his brain to compensate for the left side of the brain. And I said, so what you're telling me is that when we do something in repetition, it creates grooves in the brain that allow the synapses to fire faster, so you have ready access to that information. And she said, bingo, you got it. And I was like, so affirmations actually create pathways in the brain? And she said, yes, absolutely. And so when you think about all of that, we're born with sort of a smooth brain, and through repetition, there are grooves that are formed in the brain. So I always say, the best way to do affirmations is to do 100 times a day. That way you are creating pathways 100 times a day. You're deepening a pathway 100 times a day, right? And so through repetition, you are actually creating a reality through the synapses in your brain that are firing off, okay? Now, we want to make sure that we keep it in present tense, like it's already happening right now. We don't want it to have already happened. We don't want it to be happening in the future. It is now happening. We want to keep in the I am statements are really powerful. In the Bible, you know, Moses said to the burning bush, "Who shall I tell the Pharaoh I am?" Or who is telling me this or something? And the bush said, "Tell him the I am sent you." So the I am, when we say I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm sick and tired, those are really powerful negative affirmations. So you want to stay in the I am prosperous. In this case, if we're working on prosperity, I am prosperous. I am loved. I am, healthy. But you want to stay in those. And then the other part of that is you want to use not someone else's words, but your own words. Because those are going to be the most powerful for you. Remember, I said prosperity has a different definition depending on who you're talking to. So you're going to use it in terms that are prosperous for you. For instance, I'm really comfortable with $5,000 a month because I've made $5,000 a month most of my career. So the stretch for me is $10,000 a month. I would never say to myself or start doing affirmations for $1 million a month because I know my subjective mind will not allow that. Okay. So you want to stay with a comfort that you have, but you stretch your comfort zone just a little bit. So if you're used to making $2,000 a month, you start affirming that I am now, I now easily and effortlessly attain and maintain an income of $3,000 a month or more, or $4,000 a month or more. Whenever you feel like you will be able to manifest, that's what I want you to do your affirmations. So will you do those affirmations with me every day, 100 of them a day? Remember, and I'll talk a little bit about mala beads in a minute so that you have that, make that more effective for yourself. All right, let's have a prayer. I now move my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God, to that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful God is, how beautiful God is. And so that's where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through me as it flows through all. As I know this, I know that that same ancient wisdom of the ages flows through this team that God has provided me, guiding and leading us into a perfect service. That what we do reflects that ancient wisdom of the ages flowing through us. I know that it flows through everyone listening to this message, whether that's in real time or later on. For there is only one life, one power, one presence, and we are of it, and we are in it. It is in us, and we are connected by it, through it, as it. So there's no place where one leaves off and the other begins. Mitaku Yasin, all my brethren, we are related. So this week, I bless us with that experience of knowing what it means to move from criticism to empowerment, or from complaint to empowerment, or from apathy to empowerment. Because I know that as we focus our attention and our intention on staying in the empowerment quadrant more and more, we begin to see miracles develop in our lives. And so this week, I bless opportunities to experience that miracle place that is in that quadrant. As I know that we do our affirmations this week, we begin to see the beautiful after effects of doing those affirmations, the desired outcome that we are working towards. I know this to be true for every name that is in the ministry of prayer, because I do know that whatever challenge they are experiencing, God is the answer. And so I pull back the veil to reveal that truth here and now. As I claim that good in their names, I call it good and very good, and I give thanks for it. So my heart just fills with gratitude to know this is done, to be in service this way. And I just let it be. And so it is. Amen.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world.
Thank you, Faith. So this is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to express gratitude for that which you have experienced in the physical realm, or perhaps that which you have created in the mind of God but have not yet experienced in the physical realm. In a minute, I'm going to have you go with me to www.oasiscsl.org, and about 2/3 down the page, there'll be an offering affirmation that I'll have you say with me, and then underneath that is Contribute Now button. So let me talk real briefly about contribution, because when we were in a facility, there was rent and utilities and all of those things that we needed to pay for being in a facility. That's not the case anymore. We are live only. We have no facility. And so what you are contributing to is our vision. We have a vision of a healed world, and I mean globally. We already have people who come from the Netherlands or Holland, the UK or England, Germany, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and India to our service. And so we would like to extend that to the entire world. Unfortunately, that takes marketing. So our mission is to heal the world one person at a time. And we do that through marketing to the world and uplifting and inspiring each person that stops in, right? So when you hit that Contribute Now button, what you are doing is contributing to our mission that helps us get to our vision. So please, whether you're here in real time or later on, please go with me now to www.oasiscsl.org. And about 2/3 down the page, please say with me this offering affirmation. This perfect gift is spirit informed, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. Hit that Contribute Now button and help us reach our vision through our mission. I'm going to blast through these announcements, and I'm going to skip over a couple that we normally hear about, but I need to do that so we can end on time, because I talked a little bit too long. Sometimes I get long-winded like that. So first of all, we have licensed practitioners in our church, and they serve our church 3 different ways. The first way is by praying on requests every day for a week. So if you have a request for prayer, please put it in the comments section. If you don't want it to be public, give it to Faith. And our God Squad is what I like to call our licensed practitioners, because they march in and take charge. Faith will make sure those God Squad members get those prayer requests. The second way is that they are available by appointment for a fee for spiritual guidance. If you would like a spiritual guidance session, reach out to them through Facebook chat and let them know that you would like a session. They will let you know how to pay for it. I don't get involved in that. Some use PayPal, some use Cash App, some use Venmo, some use Zelle. They have their own businesses, so I don't get involved with that. They will let you know how to pay for it. Once it's paid for, they will reach out to you by video chat at the appointed time for your spiritual guidance session. The third way is what Oz does every week, and that is the practitioner of the day, meaning he does the invocation, benediction, and he's available at the end for a 1-minute miracle. The 1-minute miracle is not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share whatever you're experiencing, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right then and there. He will be available after the service for that. You reach out to him through video chat. If he doesn't answer right away, he's probably on with someone else, so try back later. All right. Quickly, I'm going to do Brooks and Bailey. I want to show you these mala beads because I mentioned them in the service. These mala beads have 108 beads on them. The Buddhists and Hindus use them to push one bead at a time while they're doing their chants. And so I like to use them for affirmations. Like I said, there's 108 on the necklace. There are 54 on the bracelets. The necklaces start at $30. Mine is amethyst, so it's $60. The bracelets, I believe, are $20. I don't know. She left. Dawn was here for a moment, but she left, so I can't get a verification on that from her. They also have all kinds of jewelry. You can reach them through their website, or through their Facebook page, I should say, or you can reach out to them, brooksandbailey0307@gmail.com. All of the proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescues. They have all kinds of different jewelry, but the mala beads are what I focus on because they're helpful for affirmations. And then I already talked about the two ladies that have music that provided us with music, but Faith will has put the websites in the comment section, so I'm not going to go through those. I'm just going to say, please go to these websites, buy from these ladies. We love to support those who support us, and they definitely support us. Then also check out our website, www.oasiscsl.org. There you're going to find pictures of events we've had so you can get to know your spiritual family. The video sermons and audio sermons have not been updated, so you're going to want to go to YouTube for the videos and SoundCloud for the audio sermons prior to 4 years ago under S. Tucker. I have been keeping YouTube updated, so you will be able to get today's sermon up there sometime today. But anyway, so come and check us out as often as possible. We are working on the website and we will get it updated. I know it's out of date. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Oz.
And I know that right here, right now, that God's presence manifests itself in us, as us, through us, all around us. I give thanks for the presence of God right here, right now, and I know that it is good and very good. And I let it be so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Oz and Faith, for being here, because I couldn't do this without you. And thank you to all of you. I know there's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We are so blessed you were here with us. I want to remind you that the series continues for 10 weeks. Next week will be stop 4. I want to remind you to definitely tithe your 3% this week. The link is in the comments if you didn't do it when we were doing it together. But make sure you say the offering affirmation when you do it. I want you to express gratitude for that. Excuse me. So join us next week and every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Until then, stay safe. We love you. Bye.